Welcome, everyone. Before we get going, it's a fun idea if you let us know where you're listening from. Cheers. Please like and subscribe. Let's relax and start. I pace back and forth in the dimly lit kitchen, clutching my phone so tightly my knuckles turn white. My heart pounds in my chest as I stare at the incriminating text messages on the screen. Words that tear through me like a hot blade. Can't wait to see you again, babe. Last night was incredible. My wife, Emily, has been cheating on me. The cold, hard reality hits me like a ton of bricks, and I feel the bile rising in my throat. How could she do this? After 10 years of marriage, 10 years of what I thought was a stable, happy relationship, she's been sneaking around with her personal trainer, Brad, the man I trusted to help her stay fit, the man I paid to keep her healthy. I want to vomit, but the anger burning inside me keeps it down. I'm a 35-year-old man, stuck in a monotonous routine. I work a dull office job, the kind that drains your soul a little more each day, but I've always been proud to provide for Emily. Our life in this quiet suburban neighborhood was supposed to be our safe haven, our escape from the chaos of the outside world. On the surface, everything seemed perfect. We had a beautiful house, decent cars, and regular date nights to keep the spark alive, or so I thought. But now, staring at those messages, I realize it was all a lie. Every kiss, every smile, every whispered "I love you" was tainted with betrayal. I scroll through the messages, my stomach churning as I read their plans, their little secrets, the way she talks to him, calls him pet names she never even used with me. It's like a nightmare I can't wake up from. I look around the kitchen, the space we once shared with laughter and intimacy. Now it feels like a prison, each familiar object mocking me with memories of a life that no longer exists. The coffee maker where we'd brew our morning cup together. The counter where I'd lean over to steal a kiss while she cooked dinner. It all feels meaningless now, like props in a play I've been unwittingly cast in. I know what I have to do. I can't sit here like a fool pretending everything is fine. I need to confront this head on. My hands shake as I grab my car keys from the counter, the metal cold against my palm. The rage is boiling over, threatening to consume me, and I don't care. I want to see Brad's face when I confront him. I want to see the fear in his eyes when he realizes what he's done. I walk out of the house, slamming the door behind me. The night air is crisp, biting at my skin, but I don't feel it. All I feel is the seething anger, the betrayal that's eating me alive. I get into the car, my mind racing, blood pumping with adrenaline. This ends tonight. I pull up to Brad's house, the car's engine humming softly as I kill the lights. My heart races, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles ache. It's dark out, the kind of night where everything feels heavier, more intense. The shadows of trees loom over the driveway, making the whole scene feel like the setup to a bad thriller. But this isn't fiction. This is my life, and I'm about to confront the man who's been sleeping with my wife. I step out of the car, the cold air hitting me like a slap to the face, but I barely feel it. My mind is a blur of anger and betrayal. I can't think straight, can't focus on anything except the burning need for answers. I walk up the path to his door, each step heavy with purpose. The porch light flickers above me, casting an eerie glow on the cracked paint of the front door. My heart pounds in my ears as I raise my fist and knock. It takes a few moments, but then I hear footsteps inside. The door opens a crack, and there he is, Brad. His eyes widen when he sees me, the color draining from his face. He looks like he's just seen a ghost. For a moment, we just stare at each other, the silence between us thick with tension. "What the hell are you doing here?" he finally says, his voice shaky, trying to sound tough but failing miserably. "I think you know exactly why I'm here," I reply, my voice cold, steady. I don't wait for him to respond. I push the door open and step inside, forcing him back. He tries to block me, but I'm stronger, fueled by a rage I've never felt before. "You can't be here," he says, trying to regain control of the situation. "You need to leave, now." "I'm not going anywhere," I snap, shoving him aside. "Not until you tell me what's been going on between you and my wife." Brad stumbles back, his bravado slipping away. Look, man, it's not what you think. Don't lie to me, I shout, cutting him off. I've seen the messages. I know everything. Just tell me the truth. How long? He hesitates, his eyes darting around the room like he's looking for an escape. A few months, he finally admits, his voice barely a whisper. But it wasn't serious. It was just sex. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. Just sex, like that makes it any better. The room feels like it's spinning, the walls closing in on me. But then I catch a whiff of something strange, something that doesn't belong. It's faint, but it's there, a chemical smell, sharp and out of place. What the hell is that? I ask, my eyes narrowing as I scan the room. Brad's face pales even more, if that's possible. Nothing, it's nothing, just cleaning supplies. But I'm not buying it. I follow the smell, moving through the hallway. Brad's protests grow louder, more desperate, as I get closer to a door at the end of the hall. It's locked, the handle cold and unyielding in my hand. Don't go in there, Brad says, his voice rising in panic. I'm warning you, don't. But I don't listen. I'm too far gone now, too driven by the need to know the truth. I kick the door in, the wood splintering under the force. The door swings open, revealing a scene that freezes me in my tracks. The room is dark, lit only by a single flickering bulb hanging from the ceiling, but it's enough to see what's inside. My stomach turns, bile rising in my throat. The walls are lined with disturbing, violent images. Photos of women, bound and gagged, their faces twisted in terror. Tools lie scattered on a table, tools that could only be used for one purpose. My mind struggles to process what I'm seeing, to make sense of the horror in front of me. What the fuck is this? I whisper, my voice trembling, not with fear, but with a deep, primal revulsion. Brad stumbles into the room behind me, his eyes wild with fear. It's not what it looks like, he says, but there's no conviction in his voice. He knows he's caught. I turn to him, my fists clenched, the urge to beat him senseless, overwhelming. You sick bastard, I growl, advancing on him. What the hell have you been doing? He backs away, his hands raised in a feeble attempt to protect himself. It's just, I never. He's stumbling over his words, unable to explain the unexplainable. I don't let him finish. I swing at him, my fist connecting with his jaw. He goes down hard, crashing into the table, sending tools clattering to the floor. He tries to get up, but I'm on him, hitting him again, until he's lying still, unconscious, blood trickling from his mouth. My chest heaves, my breath's coming in ragged gasps. I stare down at him, my hands shaking with adrenaline and disgust. But then I remember where I am, what I've seen. I can't stay here. I need to call the police, need to report this, but my hands are trembling so badly I can barely dial. Finally, I manage to get through, my voice barely steady as I explain what's happened. They tell me to stay where I am, that they're sending units over immediately. I drop the phone, the reality of what I've done, what I've uncovered, sinking in. I look around the room again, the horror of it all pressing down on me like a weight on my chest. I thought I was coming here to confront a man about an affair, to deal with the pain of betrayal. But this is something else entirely. Something darker, more dangerous than I ever could have imagined. And now I'm caught in the middle of it. I sit down on the floor, my back against the wall, and try to steady my breathing. My mind races, trying to piece together what this all means. Who were these women? What did Brad do to them? And where does Emily fit into all of this? The questions swirl in my head, each one more terrifying than the last. I can hear the sirens in the distance, growing louder, closer. They'll be here soon. They'll take Brad away, start their investigation. But where does that leave me? What will they think when they find out I'm the one who found all this? Will they believe I'm innocent? Or will they think I had something to do with it? The thought sends a shiver down my spine. I've uncovered something I wasn't supposed to see, something that could destroy not just Brad, but me too. I can feel the walls closing in, the weight of everything pressing down on me. The front door bursts open, the police flooding into the house. I stay where I am, barely aware of the chaos around me. They rush past me, Their voices urgent, barking orders, but I can't focus on any of it. My mind is still trapped in that room, surrounded by those images, those tools, that overwhelming sense of dread. An officer approaches me, his voice calm, asking me questions, but I barely register what he's saying. All I can think about is how my life has just been torn apart, how nothing will ever be the same again. They take Brad away, his unconscious body limp in their grasp. The officers start combing through the house, documenting everything, but it's all a blur to me. I'm numb, my thoughts racing, but going nowhere. Emily, where is she? How is she involved in this? I need to know, but I'm too overwhelmed to even move. As they lead me out of the house, I feel the cold air on my face again, snapping me back to reality. I'm in over my head. I came here to confront a man about an affair, and now I'm caught in something much worse. Something that could ruin me. And the worst part is I have no idea what to do next. The police arrive quickly, their flashing lights cutting through the darkness. I stand outside the house, my mind reeling from what I've seen. I can barely keep my hands from shaking. The officers move past me, rushing into the house, weapons drawn, their voices low and urgent. They're efficient, methodical, like they've done this 1,000 times before. But I can't focus on them. My thoughts are still trapped in that room, surrounded by those horrific images, the sickening smell that lingers in my nostrils. An officer approaches me, his face stern. "Sir, are you the one who called this in?" I nod, trying to steady my voice. "Yes, I found it. I didn't know what else to do." He studies me, his eyes narrowing slightly. "We'll need to take a statement from you. Do you have any idea what's been going on here?" I shake my head, the words catching in my throat. How could I? How could anyone imagine something like this? I thought he was just having an affair with my wife, I managed to say. I had no idea about any of this. The officer's expression softens slightly, but there's still a hard edge to it. "We're going to need you to come down to the station. We have some questions." It's routine, but we need to get all the facts. "Of course," I say, feeling the weight of the situation settling on my shoulders. This isn't just about the affair anymore. I'm in the middle of something much bigger, something I don't fully understand. And the police know it too. At the station, they sit me down in a small, sterile room. The walls are bare, the fluorescent lights harsh. I feel like I'm under a microscope, every move scrutinized. Two detectives come in, one of them flipping open a notepad. "Let's start from the beginning," the first detective says. "You found your wife's messages, correct?" I nod, recounting the night in detail. The text messages, the confrontation at Brad's house, the hidden room. As I speak, I can see the detectives exchanging glances, their faces unreadable. They ask me questions, probing for details, but I can tell they're not just interested in my answers. They're gauging my reactions, trying to determine if I'm telling the truth. "Did you have any prior knowledge of what was in that room?" the second detective asks, his tone sharp. "No," I say firmly. I had no idea. I thought he was sleeping with my wife. There's a pause, a moment of tense silence as they consider my words. Finally, the first detective closes his notepad. "We'll need to keep you in town for the time being. Don't leave without letting us know." This investigation is just beginning. The weight of their words hangs over me as I leave the station. I drive home in a daze, the events of the night playing over and over in my mind. When I step into the house, it feels different, colder somehow, like the walls are closing in on me. Emily isn't home yet, and for that, I'm grateful. I'm not sure what I'd say to her if she were. I collapse onto the couch, staring blankly at the ceiling. What the hell have I gotten myself into? Brad isn't just a cheating bastard, he's a monster. And now I'm tangled up in his nightmare. I try to push the images out of my mind, but they keep coming back, relentless and terrifying. When Emily finally walks through the door, I'm still sitting there, lost in my thoughts. She looks at me, confusion crossing her face. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" she asks, flipping on the light. I don't answer right away. I'm too busy trying to read her expression, to figure out what she knows. "Where were you tonight?" I finally ask, my voice flat. She hesitates, her eyes narrowing slightly. I was out. Why? Out where? I pressed, my voice rising. With friends, she snaps back, her tone defensive. Why are you questioning me? I stand up, the anger bubbling back to the surface. Because I just spent the night at the police station, Emily. I went to confront Brad and I found something horrible. Her face pales, her eyes widening. What do you mean? I hesitate, trying to decide how much to tell her, but I need answers and I can't get them if she's in the dark. There's a room in his house, Emily, a room full of things, pictures of women, tools, things I can't even describe. The police are involved now. For a moment, she just stares at me, her face a mask of shock. Then she sways slightly, like she's about to faint. Oh my God, she whispers, her voice barely audible. I didn't know. I didn't know he was like that. Something in her tone catches my attention. What do you mean you didn't know? How long have you been seeing him? She doesn't answer right away, her eyes darting around the room like she's searching for an escape. Finally, she sighs, collapsing onto the couch. A few months, she admits, her voice trembling. It wasn't supposed to be anything serious, just a distraction. A distraction? I repeat, my voice dripping with disbelief. From what? From our marriage? She looks at me, her eyes filled with guilt and something else, something darker. It wasn't just about us, she says slowly. I was trying to get away from something, from him. My heart skips a beat. What are you talking about? She doesn't look at me as she speaks, her voice hollow. Brad wasn't who I thought he was. At first it was just harmless flirting, then it became more, but he started to change. He got controlling, possessive. He made me feel like I owed him something, like I couldn't say no. The pieces start to fall into place, but the picture they form is more twisted than I ever imagined. Did he threaten you? She nods, tears welling up in her eyes. I tried to end it, but he wouldn't let me. He said if I told anyone, he'd ruin me. And then he showed me that room. He told me what he'd done to those women, and that if I didn't do what he wanted, I'd end up just like them. I feel like I've been punched in the gut. The rage I felt before is nothing compared to what's building inside me now. Why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you tell me? I was scared, she says, her voice breaking. He made me feel like I had no choice. I didn't want to drag you into it. I thought I could handle it on my own. The room feels like it's spinning. This isn't just about an affair anymore. It's about survival. Emily, we need to go to the police. You need to tell them everything. She shakes her head violently. No, I can't. You don't understand. He has connections. People who can make us disappear if we're not careful. We can't go to the police. Not yet. I'm caught between anger and despair, unsure of what to do. But then I remember the way the detectives looked at me, the way they asked their questions. I'm already in deep, whether I like it or not. If we don't tell them, they'll think I'm involved, I say, my voice firm. They already suspect me. We have to do something, Emily. We can't just sit here and wait for them to come after us. She looks at me, fear and desperation in her eyes. What are we going to do? I don't have an answer, but I know we can't stay here. We're targets now, and the longer we wait, the more danger we're in. We need to figure out who else is involved, I say slowly, the plan forming in my mind. We need to find out who his connections are, who we can trust, and then we'll go to the police, but only when we have enough to bring them all down. It's a dangerous plan, but it's the only one we have. Emily nods, wiping away her tears. Okay, she says, her voice shaky but determined. But we need to be careful. Brad isn't the only one we need to worry about. There are others, and they're watching us. The weight of her words hangs in the air, the reality of our situation settling in. We're not just dealing with a twisted affair. We're caught in a web of lies and danger with no clear way out. But I know one thing for sure. I won't let them destroy us. I won't let them win. But as we start to piece together the clues, the threats begin. First, it's anonymous texts, warnings to stop digging. Then there's the car that follows me home one night, headlights glaring in my rearview mirror. We're being hunted and time is running out. Emily becomes a ghost in our own home. She's there, but she's not. Every conversation feels strained, every glance filled with unspoken tension. I can feel her pulling away, but I'm too caught up in the chaos around us to deal with it. My mind is on survival, on protecting us from the nightmare we've stumbled into. The anonymous threats keep coming, growing more explicit. I find notes slipped under our door, warnings scrawled in messy handwriting. Stop digging or you'll be sorry. The texts are worse. They're detailed, personal, like whoever's sending them knows us, knows what buttons to push. I know where you sleep. I know where Emily goes when she leaves the house. They're taunting me, trying to drive a wedge between us, and it's working. I'm terrified, but I can't let it show. I need to keep it together for both our sakes. One night, Emily doesn't come home. I call her repeatedly, each ring sending a fresh wave of panic through me. It's late, too late for her to be out. Finally, she answers, her voice strained, distant. I'm staying with a friend, she says, no explanation, no concern in her tone. I want to ask which friend, want to demand she come home, but I don't. The space between us feels like a chasm now, too wide to bridge with words. I stay up all night, pacing the house, every creak and groan of the old floorboards making my heart race. I can't sleep, can't think straight. When she finally comes home the next morning, she looks disheveled, her eyes red like she's been crying. But she doesn't offer any explanation, and I'm too tired to push. The tension between us reaches a boiling point. I can't ignore it anymore. One evening, as we sit in the dimly lit living room, I finally confront her. What's going on, Emily? I ask, my voice low, trying to keep the frustration out of it. You're barely here. You don't talk to me anymore. I need to know what's happening. She stares at me for a long moment, her face expressionless, and then she sighs, sinking back into the couch. I can't do this. Not like this, she says, her voice barely above a whisper. Everything's falling apart, and I feel like I'm drowning. Then talk to me, I plead. We're supposed to be in this together. We can't let them win, can't let them tear us apart. But she just shakes her head, a bitter smile tugging at her lips. You don't understand. They already have. Everything, it's too much. I'm not strong like you. I can't keep pretending everything will be okay. Her words cut deep, but I can't afford to wallow in it. I know she's scared, but so am I. And that fear is fueling something darker inside me, something primal. We're not giving up, I say firmly. We're going to end this together. She doesn't respond, just looks away, her silence a heavy weight between us. I don't know how to reach her anymore. And that terrifies me more than the threats, more than the danger. I need to do something, need to find a way to break through before it's too late. A plan starts to form in my mind, risky and desperate. I know it's dangerous, but I'm running out of options. I can't just sit back and wait for them to come for us. I need to take the fight to them. I spend the next few days piecing together everything I've learned, every clue, every connection. It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing, but I'm determined to make it work. Finally, I set the trap. It's crude, but it's all I've got. I plant false information, bait to draw them out. I spread rumors, leak details I know will reach the wrong ears. I don't tell Emily what I'm doing. She's too fragile, too close to breaking. I need her to trust me, but more than that, I need her safe. The night comes, the one I've been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. I'm ready, every nerve on edge, every instinct screaming at me to be careful. I tell Emily I'm going out, that I need some air. She doesn't ask where I'm going, just nods, her eyes hollow. I drive to the meeting point, a secluded area on the outskirts of town. It's late, the streets empty, the air thick with tension. I park the car and wait, my heart pounding in my chest. Every minute feels like an hour, the silence pressing down on me. Finally, I see them. Two cars pull up, their headlights blinding me for a moment. I squint, trying to make out the figures inside. They step out, four of them, all men, all radiating danger. I recognize one of them, Brad's business partner, a man I'd seen at the gym once or twice. He's the ringleader, the one I need to take down. I step out of the car, my hands clenched into fists, trying to project confidence I don't feel. They approach slowly, like predators circling prey. The ringleader stops a few feet away, a cruel smile on his face. "You've been causing us a lot of trouble," he says, his voice smooth, oily. "We don't appreciate that." "Neither do I snap back, my voice steady despite the fear gnawing at me. "This ends tonight." He laughs, the sound cold and sharp. "You think you can stop us?" "You're in way over your head, my friend." I don't respond, just stare him down, my mind racing. I need to stall, need to buy time. I know what's coming, can feel it in the air. "You're just a thug with too much power," I'd say, my voice low, challenging. "But you're not invincible." His smile falters slightly, his eyes narrowing. "Careful now. We wouldn't want anything unfortunate to happen to that pretty wife of yours, would we?" The threat hits me like a physical blow, but I don't let it show. "You don't scare me," I lie. "And you're not going to touch her." He takes a step closer, his hand twitching toward his jacket. "You really think you have any control here? You're just a dead man walking." But then I hear it, the distant wail of sirens, growing louder, closer. The ringleader's eyes widen in surprise, his head whipping around as the sound registers. "What the hell did you do?" he snarls, his calm facade cracking. "I made sure you couldn't get away with this," I say, my voice cold, final. "The police are on their way." It's over. He curses under his breath, his men already scrambling back to their cars. But it's too late. The sirens are deafening now, lights flashing as police vehicles screech to a stop around us. The ringleader looks at me, pure hatred in his eyes. "This isn't over," he spits, but he knows it's a lie. He knows I've won this round. The police swarm the area, guns drawn, shouting orders. I raise my hands, stepping back slowly. The ringleader and his men are forced to the ground, handcuffed. But I don't feel any relief. Not yet. The officers reach me, and I'm pulled aside, questioned. But my mind is somewhere else, racing with thoughts of Emily. I need to get home. Need to make sure she's safe. The confrontation is over, but the war isn't won. Not by a long shot. Finally, they let me go, and I race home, the adrenaline wearing off, leaving me shaking, exhausted. When I step through the door, I find Emily sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the wall. She looks up as I enter, her eyes dull, lifeless. "It's done," I say, collapsing beside her. "They're arrested. It's over." But she doesn't react, doesn't smile or cry or say anything. She just nods, and that's when I realize that in saving us, I might have lost her. The ordeal has taken everything from her, from us. The danger may be gone, but the scars remain, deep and painful. I lean back, closing my eyes, trying to find some comfort in the fact that we're alive, that we made it through. But the cost has been too high, and I don't know how we're going to recover from this. I don't know if we ever can. The morning after the showdown feels surreal, like I've stepped into someone else's life. The house is a mess, a reflection of the chaos we've just survived. Emily and I barely spoke after I got home last night. I was too drained, too numb from the events that unfolded. Now in the harsh light of day, the reality of what's happened begins to sink in. The news breaks early. Reports about the arrest of Brad and his accomplices flood the local stations. The details are sparse, just enough to stir up a frenzy, but not enough to reveal the full horror of what I uncovered in that room. They talk about a criminal ring being dismantled, hint at the twisted activities that took place under the guise of a legitimate business. They don't mention Emily by name, but I can see the way she flinches every time they bring up the victims. I know this is far from over. The police will come knocking again, and this time they'll want to know everything. But there's a part of me that dreads what they'll find when they dig deeper into Emily's involvement. The woman I thought I knew has become a stranger, and I'm not sure how to reconcile the person she is now with the person I fell in love with. By noon, the house is swarming with reporters. They're hungry for a story, desperate to put faces to the scandal. I close the blinds, shut off the TV, and try to block out the noise. But it's impossible to ignore. The phone rings constantly, family, friends, even people I haven't spoken to in years, all wanting to know what happened. I don't have answers for them. I don't even have answers for myself. Emily spends most of the day locked in our bedroom. When I finally go up to check on her, I find her sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. She looks up when I enter, her eyes red and swollen from crying. There's a moment of awkward silence, and then she speaks, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry," she says, the words trembling on her lips. "I never meant for any of this to happen. I don't know what to say." There's a part of me that wants to comfort her, to tell her it's not her fault, but I can't. Not after everything. "How long have you been involved?" I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. She shakes her head, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "It wasn't like that, I swear. I never wanted any of this. Brad, he manipulated me, made me feel like I didn't have a choice. I thought I could handle it, but I was wrong, so wrong." Her words hang in the air, heavy with regret. I want to believe her, want to convince myself that she's a victim too, but it's not that simple. "You should have come to me," I say, my voice thick with emotion. "We could have figured it out together." "I was scared," she admits, her voice breaking. "I was scared of what Brad would do, scared of what you'd think of me if you knew the truth. I didn't want it to lose you, but now I don't know if there's anything left to save." Her words cut deep, but I don't have time to dwell on them. There's a knock at the door, loud and insistent. I know it's the police before I even open it. They've come for answers, and I can't put them off any longer. The questioning is relentless, each officer trying to piece together the twisted puzzle of Brad's criminal network. They ask about everything: how long I suspected the affair, how I found the hidden room, why I didn't come to them sooner. I answer as best I can, but I'm painfully aware of the gaps in my story, the things I can't explain. Emily is questioned separately. I can't hear what she's telling them, but I watch through the window as she talks to the detectives. She's composed, but there's a fragility to her that makes me worry she'll break under the pressure. I want to go to her, to hold her hand and tell her it'll be okay, but I'm not sure I believe it myself. Hours later, when the police finally leave, the house feels emptier than ever. The weight of the situation presses down on me, and I can see the toll it's taking on Emily too. We're both exhausted, emotionally drained, but there's no time to rest. The media storm is still raging outside, and now that the police are involved, our lives are under a microscope. In the days that follow, the investigation intensifies. The police uncover more details about Brad's operation, his connections, the women he targeted, the people he paid off to keep his secrets hidden. Each new revelation feels like another blow, another reminder of how deep this goes. The media catches wind of Emily's involvement, and though her name isn't mentioned explicitly, the implications are clear. She becomes the focus of the scandal, her face splashed across headlines with words like complicit and accomplice. The betrayal I feel deepens with each passing day. I try to focus on rebuilding, on figuring out how to move forward, but it's impossible to ignore the damage that's been done. My trust in Emily is shattered, and I'm not sure if it can ever be repaired. We barely speak, and when we do, it's strained, stilted, like we're both afraid of what might be said. One evening, as the sun sets outside our window, Emily approaches me. She looks tired, defeated, but there's a determination in her eyes that I haven't seen before. "I'm going to leave," she says quietly, her voice steady. "I think it's for the best." The words hit me like a punch to the gut, but I can't say I'm surprised. We've been drifting apart for so long, and now, with everything that's happened, it feels inevitable. Still, the thought of losing her, of being alone after everything we've been through, fills me with a deep sense of dread. "Where will you go?" I ask, trying to keep the emotion out of my voice. "I don't know," she admits, but I can't stay here, not like this. We're both broken, and I don't think we can fix each other. I want to argue, want to tell her that we can still make it work, but the words die in my throat. She's right. We're both too damaged, too scarred by what's happened. Maybe some distance, some time apart, is what we need to heal. I understand, I finally say, my voice barely above a whisper. I'll help you pack. The process is quick, mechanical. We don't talk much, just go through the motions of gathering her things. When it's done, she stands by the door, her suitcase in hand, and looks at me with an expression I can't quite read. I'm sorry, she says again, her voice heavy with regret. For everything. I nod, unable to find the words. There's nothing left to say, nothing that can make this right. She gives me one last, lingering look before she turns and walks out the door. I watch her go, my heart aching. But I know this is the right decision. We both need to find a way to heal, and maybe that can't happen together. In the weeks that follow, I try to piece my life back together. It's a slow, painful process. The house feels emptier than ever. Each room a reminder of what's been lost. I start going to therapy, trying to work through the anger, the betrayal, the overwhelming guilt. It helps, but it's not a cure. The scars run deep, and I know it'll take time before I can fully move on. The media attention dies down eventually as the story loses its shock value and new scandals take its place. The police continue their investigation, and I do my best to cooperate, though each interaction leaves me feeling more drained than before. I start considering moving away, starting fresh, somewhere new, but I'm not ready to take that step just yet. There's still too much to process, too much to come to terms with. As I sit in the empty living room one evening, the silence pressing down on me, I realize that I'm finally alone, truly alone. The weight of it is both crushing and liberating, a strange mix of emotions that I'm not sure how to handle. But I know one thing for sure. This chapter of my life is over. What comes next is up to me. The courtroom feels suffocating. The air is heavy with tension, the kind that wraps around your throat and squeezes. I sit at the witness stand, my palms slick with sweat, my heart pounding in my chest. Across from me, Brad sits with his lawyer, calm, collected, as if this whole thing is just another day at the office. But I know better. I know what he's capable of. The darkness that hides behind those cold, calculating eyes. Emily is there too, sitting on the other side of the room, looking fragile and broken. She's a shell of the woman I once knew, and seeing her like this twists something deep inside me. I should hate her for what she's done, for the lies, the betrayal, but all I feel is a hollow ache. The trial has taken its toll on both of us, dragging up every sordid detail, every painful memory. The prosecutors have painted her as Brad's willing accomplice, a woman driven by twisted desires. The defense tries to spin a story of manipulation, of a woman coerced into a nightmare she couldn't escape. The truth, as always, is somewhere in between. The prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman with a no-nonsense demeanor, stands and approaches me. She's been relentless throughout the trial, determined to make sure Brad and Emily pay for their crimes. Mr. Stevens, she begins, her voice firm but not unkind. Can you please recount for the court what you discovered in Mr. Bradshaw's house the night you confronted him? I swallow hard, my throat dry, but I force myself to speak. I found a locked room by the... Oh, yeah, I say, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. Inside were pictures, tools, things I can't even describe. It was clear to me that Brad wasn't just having an affair with my wife. He was involved in something much darker. The prosecutor nods, encouraging me to continue. And when you confronted Mr. Bradshaw, what was his reaction? He panicked, I reply, the memory sharp in my mind. He tried to stop me from seeing what was in that room. When I pushed past him, he became violent. That's when I knocked him out and called the police. There's a murmur in the courtroom, a ripple of shock that passes through the spectators. The prosecutor lets the silence hang for a moment before she speaks again. And your wife, Emily Stevens, what was her involvement in all of this? The question hangs in the air, heavy and damning. I look over at Emily, her eyes downcast, her hands trembling in her lap. I take a deep breath, trying to keep my voice even. At first, I thought she was just having an affair, I say, my heart aching with the memory. But as the investigation went on, it became clear that she was more involved than I realized. Brad manipulated her, used her to further his own sick goals. But she made her own choices too. She's not blameless. Emily flinches at my words, and I feel a pang of guilt. But I can't lie, not now, not with everything on the line. The prosecutor nods again, satisfied with my answer. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. No further questions. As she returns to her seat, Brad's lawyer stands. He's a slick, polished man, the kind who looks like he's never lost a case in his life. He approaches me with a smug smile like he's already won. Mr. Stevens, he begins, his voice smooth as silk. You've been through quite an ordeal, haven't you? I don't respond, just stare at him, waiting for the real question. He doesn't disappoint. It's clear that you are angry, upset by your wife's betrayal. It's understandable, of course. But isn't it possible that your emotions clouded your judgment? That in your state of mind, you might have exaggerated what you saw or even misunderstood it? I feel a flash of anger, but I keep it in check. No, I say firmly. I know what I saw. Brad was involved in something sick, something evil. And Emily, she was part of it, whether she wanted to be or not. The lawyer's smile falters, but he quickly recovers. You're under a lot of stress, Mr. Stevens. Perhaps that stress has affected your memory, made you see things that weren't really there. He's trying to undermine my credibility, trying to plant doubt in the jury's mind. I won't let him. I remember everything clearly, I say, my voice hard. Brad is guilty. Emily is guilty. Nothing you say will change that. The lawyer's eyes narrow, but he knows he won't get anything more out of me. He turns away, dismissing me with a wave of his hand. No further questions, Your Honor. I'm dismissed from the stand, but I don't feel any relief. The weight of what I've said, of what I've done, presses down on me as I return to my seat. The trial continues, a parade of witnesses, evidence, and arguments that all blur together in my mind. I know I've done what I had to do, but it doesn't make it any easier. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, the jury is sent to deliberate. The room empties out, the tension in the air palpable. I sit alone, staring at the empty bench where Emily was just moments ago. She's been taken back to her cell to await the verdict, and the thought of her sitting there, alone and afraid, fills me with a strange mix of emotions. I should be angry, should be glad that she's finally facing the consequences of her actions. But all I feel is a deep, gnawing sadness. Hours pass, each one stretching longer than the last. I try to distract myself, to focus on anything other than the outcome of the trial, but it's impossible. My mind keeps drifting back to that night, to the moment when everything changed. I wonder if I could have done something different, something that would have kept us from ending up here. But every time I think about it, I come to the same conclusion. There was no other way. Eventually, the jury returns. The courtroom fills up again, the air thick with anticipation. I sit in the back, my heart pounding in my chest, my breath coming in short, sharp bursts. The foreman stands, holding the slip of paper that will decide our fate. The judge asks for the verdict, and the foreman's voice rings out, clear and decisive. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, we find the defendant, Brad Bradshaw, guilty. There's a murmur of approval from the spectators, but I barely register it. I'm focused on what comes next, on the verdict that will determine Emily's fate. The foreman continues, his voice steady. On the charge of complicity in the aforementioned crimes, we find the defendant, Emily Stevens, guilty. The words hit me like a sledgehammer, knocking the breath from my lungs. It's what I expected, what I knew deep down would happen, but hearing it aloud in front of everyone makes it real in a way I wasn't prepared for. Emily doesn't react. She just sits there, staring straight ahead, as if the verdict hasn't registered. I want to go to her, to hold her, to tell her that it's going to be okay, but I can't. I can't lie to her. Not now. The judge thanks the jury and moves on to sentencing. Brad is given life in prison without the possibility of parole. Emily's sentence is lighter, 15 years with the possibility of parole after 10. It's a harsh sentence, but not as harsh as it could have been. I'm grateful for that small mercy, though it doesn't ease the pain in my chest. The courtroom begins to empty, people filing out, talking in hushed tones about the trial, the verdict. I stay in my seat, my legs too weak to stand, my mind numb. I don't know what to do, where to go from here. Everything I thought I knew, everything I thought I wanted, has been shattered. There's nothing left but the empty shell of a life that used to be mine. If eventually I find the strength to stand, I walk out of the courtroom into the bright sunlight that feels too harsh, too real. I don't know where I'm going, but I just keep walking, one foot in front of the other. The city moves around me, people going about their lives, oblivious to the turmoil inside me. I stop at a park bench, sitting down heavily, my mind racing. The trial is over, but the consequences will linger for the rest of my life. Emily will be in prison, and I'll be out here trying to figure out how to live without her hunger. The thought terrifies me, but I know I have no choice. This is my reality now, and I have to face it. I sit there for what feels like hours, watching the world go by, trying to make sense of everything that's happened. But there are no easy answers, no simple solutions. All I can do is try to pick up the pieces and move forward, one day at a time. As the sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the park, I stand and start walking again. I don't know where I'm going, but I keep moving, driven by the need to find something, anything, that will help me make sense of this new life. The shadows lengthen, the world growing darker, but I keep walking, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. There's no peace, no closure, just the long, slow process of trying to rebuild a life that's been broken beyond repair. But I have to try. It's the only thing I have left. The days after the trial blurred together in a haze of exhaustion and numbness. The verdict is final. Brad will never walk free again, and Emily will serve her time, though the years won't erase what she did. I should feel a sense of closure, but all I have is emptiness. The house is too quiet now, a hollow echo of the life we once had. Every room holds a memory, a reminder of the betrayal that shattered us. I spend my days going through the motions, trying to rebuild some semblance of normalcy. But the routine is a thin veil over the chaos inside me. I can't escape the thoughts that gnaw at my mind, the constant replaying of what happened, what I could have done differently. I thought the trial would bring me peace, but instead, it's only highlighted how much I've lost. Nights are the worst. I lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, sleep eluding me. The silence is suffocating, broken only by the occasional creak of the house settling or the distant hum of traffic. I keep expecting Emily to walk through the door, to climb into bed beside me like she used to. But she never does. She's gone, and I'm left with nothing but the shadows of our past. I try to keep busy, to distract myself from the memories that cling to every corner of this house. I spend hours cleaning, organizing, trying to put everything in order as if that might somehow put my life back together. But it's all just a distraction, a way to avoid facing the truth. I'm alone and I don't know how to move forward. Eventually, I start thinking about leaving. This house, this city, it's all tainted now. Everywhere I go, I see reminders of what happened, of the life I thought I had and the reality that tore it apart. I need a fresh start, a place where I can rebuild without the constant weight of the past hanging over me. I begin searching for a new place to live, somewhere far from here. It's not easy. Every decision feels monumental, like I'm trying to erase a part of myself. But I know it's the only way to truly heal. I need to let go of this place, of the memories it holds, if I'm ever going to move on. As I pack up the house, I come across things I'd forgotten about. Old photos, mementos from better times. Each one is a knife to the heart, a reminder of the happiness that once filled this space. But I forced myself to keep going, to pack them away yet along with everything else. These are just things, I tell myself, just pieces of a past that no longer exists. When the day finally comes to leave, I stand in the empty house, looking around one last time. The rooms are bare, the walls stripped of the pictures and decorations that once made this place feel like home. It's just a house now, just walls and floors and windows. The life that was lived here is gone, and I'm ready to let it go. I close the door behind me, the finality of the click resonating in the quiet street. I don't look back as I walk to my car, the weight of the keys heavy in my hand. I drive away, the city fading in my rearview mirror, the past shrinking with every mile. The road ahead is uncertain, but it's mine. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I can't keep living in the shadow of what's happened. I need to find a way to move on, to build a life that isn't defined by betrayal and pain. As the miles pass, I start to feel a sense of relief, a lifting of the weight that's been pressing down on me for so long. The farther I get from the city, the lighter I feel. I'm not running away, I realize. I'm moving forward, leaving behind the darkness that has consumed me for too long. I don't know where I'm going, not exactly, but for the first time in a long time, that uncertainty doesn't terrify me. It feels like possibility, like a blank slate waiting to be filled with something new. I'm scarred, yes, but I'm still here, still breathing, still capable of finding a new path. There's hope in that, a flicker of light in the darkness. It's not much, but it's enough to keep me going, to make me believe that maybe, just maybe I can find peace again. The journey won't be easy, and the past will always be with me, but it doesn't have to define me. I can choose a different ending, a different future. The road stretches out before me, endless and open, and for the first time in what feels like forever, I allow myself to hope. There's a long way to go, but I'm ready to take the first step. The shadows of the past will always be there, lingering at the edges of my mind, but they don't control me. I'm more than the sum of my scars, more than the pain that has shaped me. I'm still standing, still fighting, and that's enough. As the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, I drive on, the road ahead full of possibilities. I don't know where it will lead, but I'm ready to find out. I've survived the storm, and now it's time to find the calm after the chaos. This chapter is closed, but the story isn't over yet. I'm still here, I'm still moving forward, and that's all that matters.